discovered. It's just something, it's just a packaging. The idea is that the fundamental unit of the mind is an if-then statement. If representing the condition, then representing the output. Just like a neuron works by receiving, transmitting. And among the countless its that compose the mind, all of them, by the way, evolved according to, well, natural selective pressures. And this is a principle that I didn't come up with, but called fitness beats truth. So it wasn't about understanding things. It was about being able to use things to survive and reproduce. Well, today, society is very, very different. And our expectations of our thinking are a lot higher. We're expecting ourselves to be super intelligent, be able to ponder all these moral and all these intangible, all these ridiculous things. So the mechanisms, the interpretive mechanisms that evolved according to, the fitness demands of yesteryear, well, they sort of no longer apply. And those are what we call today biases and what I call mallets. So it's that are not adaptive to the situation in which they execute. And then we have bonnets. Anyway, I think that could be it for a thing, like sort of an introduction. And then in the document, there's a section with the Warsaw illusions, which are just the different sort of misconceptions we have about the self, and then the Conil concepts, replacements, blah, blah. Anyway, so that's the introduction. I'm cramming in what could have taken weeks into just, but hopefully that wasn't too long. And then there's implications with this. First of all, first implication is if you have a useful framework for the mind, the infusion of how the mind functions into a mind changes a mind, right? I mean, right now, we are, and always have been for our history, been just being minds. Just being minds without any knowledge of how a mind actually functions. So we're talking about a pretty major change to culture and intellectual development if someone can come up with a useful way for people to reflect on and understand their mental processes. There we go. That's it. Now, do you have a mic or do I pass you mine?
So actually I'm intrigued. My thoughts on it. Ooh, this really good. All right. I have always been a part of that too. Always wondered. Never got the religious thing, but that's a totally different story. I get what you're going with the social constructs, but I'll start from where I break it down to a basics, because I hear you with your ego and the bed and how all right. For me, I do computer. Here's the reasoning I like computer science so much, and I think I speak two languages. I don't speak French, I try, but I do speak computer language. And it comes back with this AI. So I'll put this out and I'll give you my reasoning why I believe this. I love computers because, like you said, you got me with the if-then statement. Computers are short to the point. You get an input, you get a straight output. I really think we need AI. When I say that, I don't mean the Terminator. I do programming. There's no such thing as a Terminator. Computers cannot think on a fundamental thing. No, an AI is literally a program. You program to think it's a human, program to do some sinister stuff. It always starts from a basis of a programmer. So you never get some free thinking, you turn it on, oh, it's conscious. Humans don't even work like that. We have to learn from a baby. So how could you write an AI that just starts off wanting to take over the world? I'm sorry.
Would you say that humans also cannot think?
So I'm getting to like what I believe with you, but I bring it back to two simple steps. You try to get in maybe to the theory 1 and 2. I'll bring it down, and I'm only going to AI to say once I really can't wait till AI gets to where it should be, not with the media and this whole, I hate how they do it. The cloud is just a server. AI is just more sophisticated program that's been learning for 10 years. So AI is going to be the truth because it's non-biased. It's going to see the world for what it is. Why? Because we are a weird species. We are unique. We are nothing but neurons in a nice body that only can function, that only wants to survive. The only way I think it survives is by grabbing what we refer to in some societies, religion, whatever, as maybe a conscience, a soul, which helps the body, these neurons that works just like a computer, help process the world what's going on, which we can't. I don't think we're actually looking at it. Our brain lies to us and doesn't even show us our nose.
Hold on. Pause for just a second so I can write this down.
Okay.
What did you say about neurons?
Like you said, 100 billion neurons. The body itself we look at ourselves so highly. We're just another creature. That's right. Evolution, random stuff we don't understand because we think we know. So the human body is trying to survive like a dog. We think it's simplistic. They survive because they do the very basic. That's right. So is it that great to say you're intelligent, but they're surviving more, but we're intelligent, but destroying ourselves even faster? And to say that's more intelligent, you sound foolish.
You don't know what intelligent means then.
We're defining intelligence based on a human construct of defining words that are nothing but, you're defining something from nothing. Yeah. And then you're putting validation to it when we find out that each individual person defines their own reality based on what their brain wants to show them for survivability.
Right. Hold on. So, all right, hold on. So, for our game of make-believe, I don't want this to be seen as enforcement, but a reminder. Because you are halfway there, whereas, and I know that sounds condescending, and forgive that, but I believe that it's true. You are halfway there, and are knowing that most people are negative 10% the way there. And there are just, I think, some things that, like, for instance, sometimes you'll talk about, I'm sorry, this sounds like such an evaluation. I didn't expect it to come out this way. What I'm trying to say is the important stuff that I think IT theory offers, I want to plug that stuff into what you were saying. There are a couple of things that you were saying that are understandable given what the zeitgeist is, and it's sort of but I think you'll like these replacements, and I think these replacements will be more consistent with your ideas. So, for instance, it's very hard to not speak like this. We talk about our relationship to our brain. I think that's nonsensical. We have no relationship to our brain. We are a part of our brain or a period of activity of our brain. So our only relationship is to be included, is to be a part of it. And so it's easy to not go all the way with the ideas when we still maintain this distinction. You know what I mean? The second thing is one replacement is stop relinquishing the brain self distinction. And then the other one is that I don't think, and this would be an interesting conversation, and maybe not one where I want to pull the card, pretend like I know everything, especially because you know more about AI. So this would be an interesting conversation. I think that I have many reasons to believe that it is conceptually impossible to create a system that sees reality as it is. Just the very nature of that you're not taking the reality and putting it into the system, right? It has to be represented somehow in a completely different language. So no matter what, any concept of reality is but a representation, and that representation can, like any model, only be approximate according to what it's been exposed to. So the great thing about AI, of course, is with all the repetitions, you can keep adjusting, but sort of naively or natively, you can't develop a system that's pre-calibrated to perfectly weigh and synthesize every piece of information it could possibly receive. That has to be learned. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do. Or if not learned, born with the capacity to comprehend it, but even then,
I don't think that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's conceptually possible. Because you can't just receive reality, you have to construct it, and that's a represent. That's it.
Actually, that is a really good point, which is why I love computers, because overall, the thing is, as much as we want to conceptually try to figure it out, you cannot figure out a system you've been born into unless you create that system where you set the rules. So whatever we think, we'll never figure it out. Whether it's a simulation or reality itself, we'll never figure it out because we've been born into it, and we can only accept what the human mind can comprehend.
Yeah.
If we truly see reality, like they said, we'd all go crazy.
So, yeah, and that's why I'm listening to a book now, The Case Against Reality: How Evolution Hid the Truth from Our Eyes. And yeah, it's all about that. And that also reminds me of something I named the other day called the meta paradox, which is that when you're being meta, you are playing the role of observing some other process in the brain. So what that means is you are some network in the brain reacting to some other network, right? And so you are able to sort of observe and perceive it, or have some sense of that anyway. Whether or not that's real or not, I don't know. The observer can be observed if there's a higher observer, but the highest observer can't be observed. It can't be described, categorized, because it's the highest observer, so it doesn't have an observer to observe it. You know what I mean? So
it's kind of like a cruel trick the brain plays on you, and we hadn't figured out why. And then they want to say we know why when, yes, the basis of everything is they think we know, but the brain is lying to you just to get you to survive. Because that's why I said I can't wait for AI and quantum computers till AI shows us, you guys are dumb. This is really what reality looks like, and we're not lying. Like, that's why I start. All right, I see what you're saying for most people who aren't on this level, and I love what you're doing, because I come with the part of it, but you come with the education of I read the book to get it to. So, man, I need to get on that level, because I've been reading computer programming books instead of thinking fast and slow, which I'm about to get on. So thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But that's why I do computers, and I won't be existing in that time. But when computers be like, are you sick? What you're looking at is rainbows and stuff, but if you really see the reality, you would shut down. That's why we're a unique creature, but we only make constructs so we can understand.
Yeah, and there are severe limitations to.
So yes, I start with the analogy of, you think you know, but your brain is lying to you every second in such a simplistic way that you don't even know. And they're like, what are you talking about? Well, close one eye. The way our eyes are oriented, our brain every second hides the nose from us. Otherwise, it will be in our line of vision.
And it's information we don't need.
So it shows you what you don't need, what you do need. And then when we see tricks and illusions, it interprets it how it wants to, just so you can get a grasp of reality.
But I'm offering you a challenge. Try with me to talk about these things without distinguishing between brain and self. So instead, what we can do is distinguish between. So, what are we really saying? Physically, tangibly speaking, concretely, what are we saying when we say that the brain hides something from the cell? We are not. It is not true that all of the brain knows something and then has made a decision to hide that from some other entity called the cell.
That's such a good one. Because going down that rabbit hole, it just makes me feel so bad that even this conversation is almost a waste of time because it's a construct to make this feel better because it is no self. It's just the brain doing what it's doing.
Yeah. So
again,
so a more accurate way then to talk about this interaction is you can localize the information to a particular sort of unit or set or module in the brain and say that, but that information doesn't exist in this other module. So for instance, there is a part of the visual processing system that if you're looking at the, hold on. Give me 2 seconds. Can you not say anything? 2 seconds. Got it. Okay. Okay. For instance, I'm gonna up your or whatever. I'm gonna raise your the nose thing. When the eye moves quickly, glancing around, getting information, these are called eye saccades. Okay, I think that's how it's pronounced. Saccades. Okay, boom, 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 glancing around. All right. When you are glancing around in the time that the eye is doing that movement, visual information to the brain is inhibited. In fact, at this point, the only module with the visual information is the eyes. None of it actually makes it into the brain. And then what the brain does is part of the brain then is perceiving darkness, which is not useful to the brain. So another part of the brain, based on what was just being observed and what we might expect to observe in the next instant, constructs an image. And then it's that image that is experienced. So we localize the information rather than saying the brain is doing one thing and the self is receiving whatever. We say this part of the brain is doing this and this part of the brain is doing that. Now, we can't really say point at an area. Sometimes we kind of can, but it's going to very quickly stop being useful to try to physically point at an area, which is why we have the it. So we say that there is an it that is like if gray and hold on. What was the it had to be one that you can visualize. There was all right. Well, the black and the white and gold dress, the black and blue dress. So there was an it in the system that did receive whatever the correct color is. I think I can pretty much only see it as white and gold. But there is an it in me that received, I think it's blue and black is the correct colors, that received the blue. But see, the conditions of that it wasn't just blue. This is what we call a summit. It took the fact that it was blue and also processing that had happened elsewhere about what the ambient lighting was. And its consequent was then not blue, white or gold or whatever it's, so whatever I perceived it as. You feel me?
Yeah.
And this is what I'm so excited about. That so I was in Spain and I made a friend, this kid at Stanford, young kid, he's like 20, and he's studying computer science, philosophy, and psychology. And I do these interviews in the street where I try to ask human minds what human minds are. And I get ridiculous answers. I literally get brains pointing at their heart. And it's just like, and then you ask them, wait, so if you had an emotional issue, let's say, oh, emotions, that's here. Oh, okay. If you had an emotional issue, you would go see someone who studies this then, right? You would go see a cardiologist. They would say, oh, no, I wouldn't. A thing as fundamental as emotions, and you had such a easily demonstrably stupid thing that you believed. Anyway, but he was like, oh yeah, I'm a brain and I'm these mechanisms, blah, blah. And so he had certain intuitions that it theory sort of responded to, in the sense of the distribution of the self across all these mechanisms that were the sum of these mechanisms, that were the activity at a given moment of these mechanisms. Which is not something that I really wrap my mind around intuitively, but it's just what the evidence says. So, you know. So to make it more intuitive, yeah, we've got this this it thing. By the way, another useful part of it theory is what I call the judge myth, and I think it's a pretty useful illustration to go from how we naturally see the mind to how we should see the mind. So how we naturally see the mind, you can imagine a courthouse, and there is a central judge there, up on a pedestal, whatever, and he's the main figure. He's observing all the other figures. Now, we have biases, sure. We have our anger guy who's going to be yelling. We have this anxiety guy who's going to be yelling. But then there's this central us, this self. We're going to have an instinct to, you know, oh, we see a cute girl to go and do something inappropriate. But then the judge says, nope, that's not what, you know, the decision of the court is going to be. Bailiff, go get that guy. And the judge is rational, educated, and blah, blah, blah. And so there's this idea that he has control over the courtroom. He has knowledge of all the activities in the courtroom, and nothing in the courtroom influences his decision if it shouldn't, right? So it's not because there's some dumbass instinct that he's going to blah, blah. So that's a myth. And a perfect demonstration of the fact that it's a myth is the recent sort of very popular research results that a judge is more likely to give harsher sentences before lunch than after lunch. Even you know, so even the judges that we imagine are supposed to be reasonable and all this stuff.
Oh no!
Come on!
I don't know how you can base the fate on someone's life on a human.
No, but you and I were right there. We know we need to depend on AI for a decision like that.
All right. So AI is to take over any human decisions. Yeah, because the fact that, oh yeah, they'll give harsher, like, yes, because not because you're in a better mood because your feelings, no, because you ate and your body needed nourishment.
Yeah, in-group, out-group bias. We are the descendants of people who had a fundamental preference toward members of the in-group and a distrust of members of the out-group or anybody who's different. It was advantageous for most of our evolution. Now it's something that is not advantageous because of how mixed we are. You think our brain biology went like that? Come on.
But going back to humans themselves, we change social constructs of society every couple of centuries. And it's funny to me. At one point, I think Dark Ages, maybe, the social construct for that period. Like they're doing that. If you were born in that time, no matter what your brain thought.
You believe that was reality?
Yeah, like, and what does your brain do to compensate? Because this is the reality that you're born into compared to the one we have now where the social construct is money and power. Compared to back in the day, it was the most beautiful woman next to my throne compared to another time when it was I represent God. If I'm born into it, the way the brain works, do we make these social like ants? Ants follow one queen regardless, but if they make a city structure and an ant mountain to say one is going to be futuristic, one is going to live by medieval, but they all do the same thing, what is that construct we're making? And as a society, why do we do that? Because as an individual, you can go off and be so great, but as soon as we come around individuals, the human brain, we collaborate and build a society construct that, you know, we think might help us, but it's just it's something we made up. And is that
remember, we have to picture ourselves as the way we see other primates. And none of this shit was planned. We're just, you know, just atoms happening, and then these systems like happened, and you know, we weren't fucking thinking. You know, we had the experience of thought. There was no analysis happening. We're just doing. recklessly doing. So, all right. So here's what I want to give to you. I want to give to you I want to test the theory by, I mean, the value of the theory. I want to give you a foundational understanding of the mind so that we can talk about all of these questions with sort of better, more accurately, more representative language. And then, you know, if I'm able to transmit it, if it makes sense, if it's useful, then that would be great for me to know. Okay, great. And then where it isn't, and where you have suggestions, I'll be able to make adjustments. So I'd love for us to be able to work on that. There are lots of options for. We're hitting it off, so I'm assuming we're going to be great friends. And so there's lots of options. You know, it can be. It is important to me that I transmit this sort of foundation to you, and then it can be real loose where we're talking, or we can really work on some projects. So specifically, two projects that I want to work on over the next, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. Well, one, I think I can do it in less time than that, is coming up with in fact, maybe I can do it this year, a way of illustrating the mental events that led up to a given behavior. Sort of like a network map of how the its interacted. So this was the condition, this was the stimulus to the system. We know there was in it a bottom processor that was just waiting for that stimulus, and we know that it has this output. Oh, and then it must have talked to, because its output is the condition of this other it. So blah blah. And we try to like basically do a map, and I've done a few of these, going from stimulus to behavior, or stimulus to belief. And so we can also look at it like the reasoning process that happened. Or what I really like, what's really easy is doing a map it. That's what I call it, a map of the its. A map it is of like a hiring decision, of how the resume elements, the physical appearance of the person, their mannerisms, all of that stuff, what it triggers in the brain, and how they interact, the things that it triggers to ultimately produce yes or no.
So, and in computer science, we call that a process flow chart.
Very good, excellent.
If you look up process flow chart, we do it through in Visio, which is Microsoft. It has specific symbols. It might start off as a diamond at the process of it, data input. From there, you draw a line from what do you think the output should be. And
Great.
Like I said, that's human to computers. We're just going through a process outflow and all the factors.
That's right.
Trying to make a decision on what to eat. First comes in, you think about it, but other factors come in of where are you sitting affects it. The light, when the last
Absolutely.
time depends on what you're going to choose. How you're feeling, the sun, an input could be somebody sitting next to you, a restaurant. It's so many factors for humans that we hadn't got that down. And we can't write it in code, but we can do a simulation out of this world. Like I said, I love going with the AI, get it? So we can do it, but we can't go into all the factors. What can go into all the factors? Quantum computing, which can do so many scenarios in an instant, which will break our reality to say, it would figure out our process because AI can predict it already. Because that's what shows that, our brains work on the process flow. We just hadn't figured out all the factors to put in it, but we think we're so smart, and we do.
That's right. All right, so this is an example of what it looks like. This is an it map. So you have the...
Yes, that's a process flow chart. So your its will be represented as triangles and boxes that show different scenarios that it leads to.
Yeah. And then we have the different kinds of arrows for whether it's inhibitory or excitatory.
That's why I said I love computers. So you would present this to me, and I would talk to the computer and present it to it to get maybe a basic simulation of, well, we got the it map for something as simple as choosing butter. Which butter you want on your toast?
Yeah.
Who has the answer?
Now, I imagine that I love ambition. So the idea of actually creating an it map that could be usefully representative of a psychological process is super cool. But an intermediate goal is it has a persuasive value. So suppose someone makes a hiring decision, they decide not to hire someone. And of course, because of the bias blind spot we all have, they think it was information, logical processing, conclusion. So then you draw a speculative it map for them using real its that exist in humans, and ideally even ones that have been demonstrated by this person. And it's a plausible alternative. In fact, I call it an alternate map. No, an alternate map. I don't know where to put the emphasis, but and it's just a way to get someone to be a little bit humble, to go, this is another possible process flow by which I arrived at this decision. All of those elements are real human its. Why not? Okay, maybe I should take my judgment a little bit less seriously, or, maybe if I need to run through it again somehow. Speaking of running through it again and evaluating ideas. So that's the map it. The second thing is my whole life I have been frustrated that I feel like I can't know what's true. Science can, through experimentation, we cannot know capital T true, but we can get closer and closer. But what about when I can't do an experiment, when I'm just having a conversation with someone and we disagree and we just seem to keep butting heads? And there's just, I hate that I can't resolve it, that I can't, either know what the error was on their part or adjust my thing so that I, adopt whatever correct thing that they were saying. And not even knowing whether or not, blah, blah, whether someone's confidence is justified, whether or not an argument is worth my time whatsoever, blah, blah. So that's what I want to invent. Because I love ambition. So that's what I want to invent, a way to do that. Okay? So I call the whole family of things Alaris. So it's just Eris plus Al at the beginning. Because it's the application of Eris. Eris, by the way, it's an acronym: empiricism, reason, imagination, and skepticism, especially of the self. So the application of these four values to try to resolve discord is called Alaris. And there's three categories of Alaris. There's Manalaris, which is an individual's effort. So you're watching an Instagram video and you want to know, how seriously should I take the claims made in this? How well have they convinced me of this? It might sound great to me, but I know I can't trust myself. So, is it actually well supported or not? Blah, blah, blah. So that's a Manalaris. A Dialaris is like a dialectic, a discussion between two people where they're exchanging information and perspectives in an attempt to find truth together, as opposed to, just they're in combat with their competing ideas, whatever. So how do we do that? How do we keep track of the statements? And then there are going to be times where I make a statement. You get me to agree that that statement was false. And then later I make another statement that actually assumes the statement that we already agreed was false. How do we keep track of this? How do we respond to that? What do we do about that? What kind of affirmations need to happen to avoid triggering the combat instincts in a conversation? And then finally, we have Wealaris. There's two parts to that. One part, or there's two kinds of Wealaris, two subcategories as I've conceived it so far. One category is, see, humans are really good at arguing and being combatant. They're not good at discussing. They're not good at learning anything. But they're really good at just saying bullshit in support of their point, finding whatever justifies their thing. Well, there's an evolutionary advantage to that. And that's if two people in a tribe have opposing ideas. and they work really hard on not considering the value of the other idea and just proving their own idea. Well, if their idea can be proven, they're probably going to do it then, is kind of the thinking, especially if it's a simpler issue than, a metaphysical question or whatever. So in our evolutionary history, it's like in the courtroom, right? The defense attorney and the prosecutor, their only job is to do the best job they can of making their case. And then other people benefit, the community benefits by observing this and getting some truth from it, even if the actual participants don't get any closer to truth and they're just slinging bullshit at each other. But the spectators learn from it and can find some truth with it. So that's one realis where you observe. We take advantage of the fact that we're good at this stupid debate thing, and other people sort of critically observe. And then the other piece is when a scientist discovers something, and maybe it's something counterintuitive and they need to transmit it to the populace, the community, how they formulate it such that it can be received by people who haven't been researching it. And then the people who are receiving it, what kind of practices do they need to do to seriously consider a thing that their instincts are going to tell them is wrong, So that's the second big project.
That is a good one. Real quick, because my dad is calling me. We're trying to do a follow same thing. Yeah, we're going to meet up for another. We've been over an hour and.
Oh wow! Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, and
yeah. No, it's cool. It's cool. Going off of what you said, I really like it. One overall, even with all of that, if you put it in a box to me, it just shows that, like I said, I'm waiting for AI because humans need a babysitter. We need a mediator. We think we're smart, but we're childish kids with brain power we don't know how to use. So yes, we need babysitters. Something else with yours is, yes, I do like a flow chart, but keep in mind 2 examples. A flow chart could be the perfect thing, but it's still going to be biased based on things you cannot realize. The word bias would come up as a human construct we have, but we truly don't understand. But your flow chart might be biased, but you think it's right and leads to a better thing. An example to say that will be computers, the computer programmers that write the facial recognition, and they write it unbiased and perfect, but they hadn't done it from the consideration of a black person, where the cameras themselves can't see the black faces, therefore we can't recognize. But it's not them being racist, it's from their standards.
Absolutely.
Biases that we use that word.
This is why I need you, because none of this is worth anything without another set of eyes. And that isn't worth anything without another set of eyes,
Another set of eyes, exactly. So no, man, set up another meeting.
Yeah. And you know what? Just today I put a note on my wall. Mappets are fundamentally counterfactual because we're linguistically categorizing unimaginably complex interactions while assuming objectivity, So, yeah. Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, you know what? It doesn't say while assuming objectivity, but I realize that what you said, it does add something. So I'm going to add that now, while assuming objectivity. But, what can we do as scientists and modelers? Anyway, okay, very cool. We'll text about getting together again soon.
Man, it was really nice talking to you.
It was really, really nice talking to you, man. See ya, bud.
Later.
Quel con. Quel con.
Putain, il a de la chance que je l'ai vu, parce que j'étais en train de tourner.
Bah oui.
Tu veux que je conduise?
2024 Foxtrot 22 Foxtrot 1759 1800 calling Christopher Williams. Yo, Chris.
Came back from a run or something?
No, it's just hot. What's the weather like where you're at?
Same thing. Humid as hell.
Yeah, here it's probably about 96. Is that true? Let's see.
Getting there.
I'm looking at it. Yeah?
So I said we'll be at about 98 in about 1 or 2 o'clock.
Oh no, I was totally wrong. It's 87.
No, we'll definitely. Thinking about taking another nap.
That's what I'm gonna do after this conversation.
Whenever you want to get started, I'm not.
Did you get a chance to look at that document?
You know, I didn't. I think I was waiting. I don't know what it was. I had it, and I might have been waiting on you to go through it with me.
Yeah, we can do that.
Our last conversation, mainly because it was a shared document, and after we got off, I logged out of it because I didn't want to mess around in it.
Okay.
Even though you took away my permissions, but
yeah, you had just commenting permissions.
Yeah, so to answer your question, no, I didn't.
Okay. What I was thinking, I want us to can you pull the document up now? So you can look through that on your own, I think, is sort of what intuitively makes the most sense to me. But can you go down to, I don't have page numbers, hold on. Can you go down to, or you can click on my picture in the corner and it'll take you to where I am on page 3.
Concepts.
I don't know. I just highlighted Alois.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got here Manalaris. Can you give this a glance and let me know whether you got the gist?
Are these defining the terms or going off like imagination? Is that the...
No, well, so my name Eris, it's an acronym for these things, and I'm not necessarily redefining. I'm
Okay, no, I'm just not saying acronym, or that's what I was asking, like.
Okay.
And I did now. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I was just about to say highlighted. Now I get it. All right. ASS.
So that's a word, so Essek is a word from the Bible, E-S-E-K, and it basically means like, I think discord or disagreement or something, I don't remember. Anyway, a kes means just a claim, let's say, for now. And an Essek is a question, and then the relevant claim is the kes.
Did you want me to stop at a certain point?
Oh yeah, when it gets down to like the second time mentions Essek, or wherever my cursor, oh no, I moved my cursor, here.
Yeah.
Alright, so as I said last time, this is sort of one of the two main things that I see as my next project. Now that I think I basically have a framework to understand, I think I have an understanding of the mind here, things that were interfering with good discussion before, and now that I've gotten this out of the way, I want to do the Mappets and Manalaris. So Mapit, a way of doing that process flow chart of cognitive processes, interpretive mechanisms, and then Manalaris, one part of how to evaluate something, know whether it's, lowercase t, true or not, etc. How do you follow a disagreement? How do you know when someone is being unfair in a disagreement? How do you know when they've proven unreliable in a disagreement? Stuff like that. So that's what I want to do next. Now, that reminds me, there are two major ways in which you can help me. At some point, you said you weren't sure you can help me. Well, there's countless ways you can help me. In anything that I say, if you have an idea about it, if you see an error, stuff like that. But two major ways that come to mind now is that I can develop Manalaris with you. Basically, what would happen is, like, for instance, what I was thinking we could do today is debate God. You play the atheist, I play, let's say, a Christian, and I want us to debate God, and I need to practice talking about the claims made in a disagreement, how they compare, and so on, and maybe a notation system for a disagreement. And then the other way, so that's one way, debate examples for Manalaris. And then the other way is whether I can test, this explanation of it theory on you. And for that, well, it would just involve, you can look at it and we can talk about it whenever you like. But actually, also what I'd like to do, which I've only had one other person do, is, and I think I would probably change it for you, but I want to develop a pre-test and a post-test for psychological self-awareness. So I call that critical recognition. So knowing that you are a mind and knowing what the implications of that are. Wait, hold on. Don't move. Hola. Oh, quiet. No pasa nada. Oh, quiet, Neil. Shut the fuck up. Oh, quiet. That's it. That's what I wanted to say. Those are the two major ways that you could help that come to mind immediately. Do one of those tickle your fancy?
Yes, I don't know how to properly debate, but I would love to play this role of a Christian.
Of what?
Atheist versus Christian.
Mm-hmm. Sweet.
Oddly enough, I don't. As an atheist, I really could care less about anybody's preference on religion or what you do. Right? It's none of my. It's all a construct. But the thing I just despise about it is, man, one, I think it's a flat out lie, and two, I think at one point it's a hindrance to the progression.
Oh, it absolutely is, which is why I take issue with your not taking issue with people's constructs, because those constructs are constructs in place of impediments to better constructs.
True, but this is where it gets interesting. Try being an atheist and having like a sister who is Christian but doesn't really know the details. She knows I'm not stupid. I would never, and quite the opposite. She's just like, you're so intelligent. One of my older sisters, actually biological, so one that's right above me, and all the time we have conversations, and I've had this so much, and I stopped because they all Christians always come down to one thing, and I'm trying to see if I can get you to come down to that one thing too. And I'm not going to say anything just to see if it's true statistically, but even with her, my heart goes out because the one thing that stands out to me as humans, we'll get on this next, is empathy. I do not understand or can comprehend why we have empathy, but it is so important. With empathy, like we claim we can feel others. So even with the empathy for my sister, see that I know this is hindering you because you don't fully live a life because you believe when you die, you're just going to go to a better place because of some stupid. It's like, heaven, you know, I cannot live my life like that. And watching you ignore what you have here, yes, it drives me crazy, but you're my sister and I love you. And I can truly see that you're not lying to me and you believe this. And there's nothing I could do to convince you other than God coming down himself and saying, I'm not real.
Right.
And why?
And that wouldn't even do it because that would be explained away.
You get my joke, right? My sarcasm with that.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes down to anything with any other human with empathy. Same thing with wars. Somebody's always a bad guy on in a war. So this empathy thing kind of stands out where it goes with this religion thing. And it maybe not be nothing good, but you wonder, like, why does it make me angry? Well, empathy. And that's the word I can use, even though just like love, I can't really define it. But it's one of those things where I want to discuss with you. I meant to say it. Like, what do you think about empathy as a human construct? Because it's the one thing I think that separates us from any other animal.
So there
Maybe not. When I think about it, that's totally wrong because you can tell, like, gorilla.
Yeah.
Will have, other animals will have, but is it empathy or is it
any
chemical?
Well, so all right. So you didn't say that learning it theory would tickle your fancy, but I can't really promise you, but I want to promise you that your perspective on the mind will change by understanding this sort of framework. And remember last time you would distinguish between you and the brain? And then now I hear you distinguish between words that describe intangible concepts and tangible things. But what if those words are actually describing tangible things? So you said, for instance, is it empathy or is it a chemical reaction? Well, what if empathy is sort of a chemical reaction and its implications in, social relationships, So any social being has to have some level of empathy, in order, because, okay, so social beings, we all have a preference. We all have a capacity to sacrifice for those people who have some of our genes. And so, like, for a cousin, I think there's even, like, it's said that if it's going to be a sibling that you're sacrificing for, then because they have half of your genes, the utility to them has to be twice as much as the consequence to you. If it's your cousin, 4 times as much. If it's your second cousin, 8 times as much. So that's kind of how the genes go, and that we have this tendency to, anybody we consider as having our genes, is that we are going to, their pain is ours and our bounty is theirs to some extent.
But I can't I can't really put that on like genes and relatives. For example, I'm an Army veteran, which is why I brought up war, which means and I was a fireman, and I was trained for a policeman, and my empathy goes beyond, because I would give my life for a stranger, human kind. So it has nothing to do with what, now, if it comes down to would I save someone in my gene pool, like my cousin, before I would save a total stranger, that come down to logic and reasoning.
Well, no, logic and reasoning are myths. In fact, what would happen is, what you would do is you could do an experiment, and even if ultimately there would be a part of you willing to sacrifice yourself for anybody, how quickly does that part win out? against your other survival instincts, which you necessarily have. I think I'm like you, and that I'm very self-sacrificial. Um, but I do think that if that you would see my reaction would be faster if it was for my kid as opposed to for a member of the out group. And so, by the way, what do you know about in-group, out-group? Because that's related to empathy as well.
Nothing actually. I hadn't heard it.
Okay, so yeah, so in-group, out-group. All right. So, all right. You know what? Next time, I want to.
Write this down because I'm taking it. I feel like I'm taking you off subject because I would.
No, yeah, no, well, no. I'm gonna say something about in-group, out-group, but I do now want to insist next time. I want to try to give you sort of a full explanation of it theory, what it means and what it enables us to talk about and predict and change. Well, prediction I still have to work on, but there's sort of very loose predictions, I guess. But in-group, out-group. So, we have a preference for in-group, which means our tribe, our people, our kin, our family, our community, and a tendency to distrust members of the out-group. And there's some really interesting studies actually about empathy when you compare in-group, out-group. And I actually contributed to, I was in Houston and I went out to sort of the hood and I took photos of bangers, I guess. And the experiment they were going to do is to show photos of rival gang members. Anyway, look, I'm off topic. Let me say what the important thing is about in-group, out-group, and empathy. So we have this distinction in the mind. It's pre-programmed. When we come into this world, we're just looking to learn who's the in-group and who's the out-group. But we already have these placeholders ready. There's certain people that I'm going to rely on, that I'm going to be extra generous with, that I'm going to be happy to show good faith to. And then there's going to be people that are maybe a threat, that I'm going to be more suspicious of, that I'm going to punish more severely, etc. So with pain, if you show, let's say you take white university students as subjects and you show them someone being injured. You show them a hand with a scalpel going across and, some blood coming out. Okay. And what you do is you put sensors on the surface of their skin. Okay, you're testing something called GSR, galvanic skin response. But anyway, anytime there's a lot of emotional activity, or really any emotional activity, we can see that in how conductive the skin is because we perspire a little bit. So even if there's not beads of sweat, it's just a little wetter, a little bit more conductive, and so that's reflected in the GSR test. Okay, so you show the Ohio University student a photo of a white hand being cut and bleeding. And you measure how much of a reaction you see based on how much he perspires. Well, then you show him the black hand, and you're going to see significantly less of a reaction. You would also see, for instance, on the contrary, if you show a black face to that guy, you're going to see his amygdala, which is near the center of his brain involved in threat detection, is going to light up. Whereas it's not going to light up as quickly if it's a member of the in-group. Then if you could show him the photo of someone that he knows, but maybe not too well, such that you're able to detect the first amygdala response, and then the recognition will follow and dampen the amygdala response. Oh no, he's one of the good ones, So that's what I would have to say about empathy and the chemistry of it.
Oh, it's learned.
Yeah, insofar as anything is learned. Most things are sort of the basics are pre-installed, and then we learn the assignments. So I would say everyone is born with an in-group out-group distinction and a preference for the in-group and a distrust of and, avoidance of the out-group. Now, who you define as the in-group and the out-group, it's going to be somewhat affected by your upbringing. Then again, regardless of your upbringing, you're going to see what the in-groups and out-groups are, how they're defined in the media, illegal immigrants, or, what is modeled as the American citizen. Is he white? Or now recently it's been much more diverse, which is really great for little kids as they learn how to assign who's in-group, who's out-group. And then also something that I guess you at least in part learn is the vehemence with which you protect the in-group and, offend or protect against the out-group. So love, have you heard of any of the chemicals involved in love?
Yes.
Can you tell me any?
Other than maybe dopamine.
Dopamine's great, yeah. Dopamine is a big one. And then the one that's involved in sort of commitment and a lot of things with family love as well as romantic love, but that long, profound stuff is oxytocin.
I said the A word. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, oxy. Yeah. It sounded A, but it's yeah.
Yeah.
It was right.
So oxytocin, if you take a rat, so it tends to be thought of as like the love chemical. If you take a rat and give a mother rat oxytocin, indeed, she will be much more affectionate with her young. She will pay more attention to them. But you know what else is interesting? Her reaction will also be sort of more dramatic for the out group. So for the in group, she's going to be a lot nicer, more affectionate, more generous, more caring. For the out group, she becomes vicious, like a mother when she's protecting her kids. All that mommy brain is making her love, love, love the kid and making her really hate anything that gets near that kid, like a mama bear, So yeah, all these things, they are chemical. Someone who is more empathetic, it depends on whether you mean like actually understanding their other state or just valuing their other state. But part of it will be how vehemently we maintain the in-group, out-group distinction, and also whom we consider as part of the in-group or the out-group, how nuanced it is. Is it like there's my family and then the enemies? Or is it like, is it more of a spectrum, So yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to give you the its. So the in-group, out-group, that's an it. That's it's a pair of if-then statements. The in-group it is, if this is a member of my in-group, then benefit of the doubt, for instance. Well, actually, it's a whole team of things. If they're a member of my in-group, then benefit of the doubt. If they're a member of my in-group, then share, even if they've never shared with me. If they're a member of my out-group, then notice any possible bad behavior. If they're a member of my out-group, you don't have to think about the good behavior. If they're a member of the out-group, be more severe in your reaction to guarantee that they and their people don't threaten you anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah. So, did God tell you all that?
Yeah, I guess so. I've just read, let's see, I've gotten through Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, then Numbers, then Deuteronomy. Just finished Deuteronomy, gonna start Joshua. And yeah, it's so outrageous. Have you read it?
I wanted to say this before we start off. I was in Bible school. Most of my middle school life, because we had to do so. Well, my dad had the business. We had a church up the street. So my mom was sending us there for Bible school, mainly just to get us out. It wasn't bad. She was Christian too, but not really with a purpose to pretty much to get us out and have us in a better location. But that's when I actually started listening to stories. And at my young age, I just couldn't fathom these magical stories. From there, they were always getting them from the Bible. Turn to this. I tried so hard to read, but I thought it was, for the longest, I thought it was me. Am I not comprehending this? Is it written? Why is it so contradicting? Why is it written in riddles?
Yeah.
I heard it's translated 1,000 times. Why is it?
It's only, and also it's only written in riddles if you have to explain away something else. Because if you take it literally, it's very clear and also very absurd.
So the bad part I have is I like to call people on their BS, and they can with me. So with a lot of Christian arguments, I cannot get down to making an argument by quoting the Bible, because I refuse to read it because it's so silly to me. With any other book, you would sound ignorant by saying you didn't read the book to educate yourself.
Yeah.
Shut the hell up. Bible, I feel as if I get less educated and more stupid going down the rabbit hole that is this nonsense on nonsense.
Yeah.
Not so me being like, oh, well, Leviticus 3:6 or this quoting us.
You don't even know your books?
Huh?
Would you say Leviticus?
Yeah, I don't even. That's how bad it is. I like all the names, the King James Bible, like all of them.
I was trying to show off that I could remember the order of the first 5 books, but that was wasted on you.
Exactly. So I feel ignorant by saying no. The first book I really want to go off of is the Book of Raw.
The Book of what?
The Book of Raw.
How do you spell that?
Not the Book of Raw. I take it back. I sound stupid like the story of Raw.
How do you spell that? I don't know the story.
Oh, R.A. The sun god.
Oh, the sun. Is this in the Bible?
No, this
was
the
Egyptians.
Jesus that they derived and turned him into white, blonde hair. Yeah, that one. Or the fact that the brand doesn't, God doesn't have a face. He was never given a face until you went to, what's his name, to paint the Vaticans, and they told him come up with something. He came up with blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus, Christopher, Michelangelo.
Okay, yeah, for when he was doing the Sistine Chapel.
Chapel, thank you. I just smoked. My brain went dumb for a second. But yeah, so knowing the origin of a fairy tale and why to even entertain anything, I take it as a joke. That's why I say even Leviticus. I know I'm saying that wrong, and to me, it's all a joke.
No, it is, and it's one of many jokes, and it just happens to be the one that dominated in our recent history. And it's not the first joke of its kind. It's the perverted version of a bunch of jokes. So anyway, all right. So let's start a debate on religion. It doesn't have to be we just have to go a little bit slow. So the first step, I don't want us to try to be too logical, but I do. But some things I do. So the first thing, let's decide what the ethic is, what the point of conflict is. So what do you want to do? Do you want to do something about the afterlife? Do you want to do God's existence? Do you want to do that this is a reliable source of God? What do you want to do?
For me, all right, me personally, I would like you to pose a question as if you were a Christian asking me, but why don't you believe in God?
Okay, hold on. So let's make this first ethic belief in God justified, and we're doing a singular God. We're doing the Christian God, right? Okay. Belief in God, justified or not. And then Chris CW's cast is that belief in God is not justified.
Honestly, no. Belief in God is a mental illness.
Yeah, all right. And then my cast is belief in God is justified, let's add, by the Bible and daily the Bible, existence, and daily experience. Okay. All right, that's my claim. All right, I'll start like you said. Hey Chris, what the hell, man? Why don't you believe in God? Look around you, brother.
God is not real.
Hold on. Hold on. So we gotta go slow. We gotta go really slow. So, this we have this claim. Uh, God God is not real. Okay. I hear you. I take that to mean the same thing as your initial claim, which is that belief in God is not justified. But, Brother Chris, have you ever noticed just how many trees and plants and insects there are in the world? I've never seen a human create that many things. It would have to be some kind of all-powerful being. Surely we would agree on that.
True. We could agree on that. But then I would ask you.
Hold on. Can I pause you? Let me think about that a second.
Yes.
All right.
So your argument is something of intelligent design had to make that.
Yeah.
Yes, I could agree with you on that. And I actually, more than you would think. Yes, I do agree. But I ask you in that before we get started to define what you consider a god.
Okay.
For me.
Okay. This is great. I am loving this. I'm getting so many. Okay, okay, so definition God requested. Okay, I will offer you a definition. God is one, the singular, all-knowing being. Two, same thing, all-powerful being. Three, the singular creator of all current elements, all current things. No, the creator, direct or indirect, so not necessarily immediate, of all current things of the universe. Four.
Actually, for that one, most Christians will stop at all. Most hardcore Christians will stop at all and not put universe. You sound more of someone who's giving more scientific
Sounds too
explanation.
secular.
So from my experience of having...
All right, no, whatever. I believe you. All right, I've dropped that from the third one. And let me give you one final one for singular operator of all.